GPS for about 9 years, and I enjoy it. I love it. I love being a police officer. It's kind of in my family, in my heritage. So growing up, everybody wants to do what their dad does, type of thing. And so that's how I got into it. And but no, I enjoy it. I was assigned to highway patrol. I worked the road for about 8 years, and then about 3 years ago I got onto SWAT, doing it part-time, and then last year I actually transitioned to doing SWAT full-time. So I enjoy every day I go to work, even though it's my scheduled day off and we get a call in the middle of the night. I still enjoy going, and I enjoy learning. So as we talk more, I want to hear some questions, because I know people always have questions. I'd rather have you ask me now than sit there the entire time thinking about your question, but you're afraid to ask it and not hear the other things that we discussed. So just to kick it off, does anybody have any questions? Go ahead. That's an absolutely fantastic question. And I don't know. Is it a handbook? Bam. So no, that's a great question, and I mean that probably addressed some concerns that other people have. So, that one. Any other questions? Sure. Sure. So I guess we'll find out if that's based on the handbook, but. So, go ahead. We will get into that, and that brings me to with the other kind of disclaimer I wanted to throw out there. I'll share the knowledge and the experiences that I've gained. By no means is it the end-all be-all, or should it be taken as that is the right thing to do. I'll present some topics. I'll present some things that I've learned, some things I've seen. Think about it. We just had an opening prayer where the Spirit was asked to be here. See what the Spirit, if he can confirm and help you out in making those decisions, because a lot of this stuff will be personal. It's very, very, very personal. You'll have to make a decision of what you'll do when and if the day comes. So I don't want to stand up here and say this is what you should do, this is what you can't do, you should do. Go ahead. Kind of keeps it up to the discretion of the leadership. Is that? No. Yeah, that's one of those questions. I mean, we try to keep track of all the policies, obviously. So. Any other questions at all? Go ahead. Yeah, we'll talk. We'll dig into that. As far as the Glenn Beck comments, I didn't see it, so I can't second that or anything like that. But as far as the preparation, there's a lot of companies out there that do provide some insight, and I'll actually go over a foundation that we'll talk about a little bit that helps put that knowledge out there. So again, it's one of those things where they'll provide the information, but it's a very personal thing where you need to decide if it's something that works for you. And there's a lot of variables whether or not it's going to work for you. Any other questions real quick? Okay, so just want to start off. My one disclaimer was, I mean, the flyers say I'm an expert. I don't like to use that word. I like to think of myself as I'm continuing to learn every day. So take what I say for what it's worth and think about it. The other thing is there might be some times where you get a little graphic. I don't mean to do that to scare you, but at the same time I kind of do. It's a very, very real, very intimate topic as far as violent encounters. So if at any time, I'm trying not to get too crazy, but if at any time you feel like it's too much for you, sorry. Feel free to step out, and if you want to rejoin, that's fine. But it is. Violent encounters are probably one of the most high-stress situations that you could ever be in. In my job, just this afternoon we had a SWAT call. But that's something that I, as a police officer, we kind of signed up for. We go through training that is meant to help prepare us, teach us how to act in certain situations. But at the same time, there's no training, no matter how realistic it gets, even though it is a lot better than it used to be, that can prepare you for that violent encounter when you're confronted with a person who is bent on doing evil. So let's go over just a quick scenario, and then we'll kind of break it down from there. Everybody's been to the Santan Mall. Nice mall, outdoors. This time of year it's probably nice to walk around, go store to store. So let's say you're walking down the sidewalk, you're passing a few storefronts. There's a nice breeze. It's still pretty enjoyable outside. You hear some birds, maybe a few cars or something. You see other people walking. Pretty normal day, right? And then all of a sudden you hear pop, pop, pop. You don't know if it's a car noise. You don't know if it's a delivery truck dropping some pans off or something. But it catches your attention. What is your initial reaction? Sitting here in this safe place, what do you say you want to do? Go ahead, answer it if you'd like. Run for cover. Okay, anybody else? Okay. Ignore it? That's all right? Sure. And if it's something you can easily identify, you hear the backfire of an engine and you've heard it before, your experience tells you that could be it. Go ahead. Sure. Pique your curiosity, right? You're kind of interested at that point. So you hear 2 or 3 pop noises. You're not sure what it is. Might be a car or something. And then all of a sudden you hear screaming. You hear blood-curdling screaming. You hear more pops, louder pops. You start to see people running. Now, where are you at as far as your response? Did it change? Did it change from 2 seconds before? In that 2 seconds, did you have a whole lot of time to prepare? Did you have any time to say, well, I'm going to grab this or grab that, things that I might need in case there's a violent encounter? To go a little bit further, the people start running towards you. And you see women, you see children, you see people trying to run. They're getting away from something that they may have already identified. It's obviously a threat. They feel threatened and they're running. Now what is your response? Probably run too. So I want to break it down a little bit, and then we'll kind of dig a little bit deeper. I think in general there's 3 options, and we kind of covered them all. 1, you can hide. 2, you can run. Or 3, you can engage the threat. Obviously, at different points of your contact, or based on your experience and your training, or the way that you've kind of mentally prepared for that situation, for that time, that's going to kind of dictate what you do. So the first one is hiding. Let's think about good hiding places. In that scenario, outdoor area, there's a lot of stores. You could hide in a store. What are the positives and negatives of hiding inside the store? Right. So, have you ever been in that store before? You know how the aisles are set up, or maybe the clothing, or the displays. Does it offer any kind of protection as far as if somebody comes in? Is it just hiding you, or is it actually going to protect you in case some gunshots come in that way? So those are some things, and again, 2, 3, 4, 5 seconds, your mind's going to try to process that. And so that's the thing I want. If I walk away from today and I don't have you guys remember anything I say, That's kind of what I want you to start thinking about those things. So as you're enjoying your day, as you're going outside, you're not overly paranoid, but you are looking at things in a different light as far as, that curtain there. Is that going to offer any cover for me? Or is that just concealment? If I go on the other side, you may not be able to see me, but if somebody shoots a gun, rounds will go straight through that. So I want you to kind of track along those lines with me, and we'll see where we end up. So again, on hiding, the other thing is you don't know where the threat is, you don't know where it's coming from, and if you're out of sight, yeah, that's a good thing. But for how long, and how long is that safety going to last? For the second option, run. There's a lot of things to consider, especially if you don't know where the threat is coming from. If it's around the corner and you don't see it, and you run one way and you make a left-hand turn and you start going down one street, did the threat continue down that street or the other street or the other direction? So there's things to consider. And of course, as you're running, you're going to constantly reassess what's going on. Do you still hear screaming? Do you hear gunfire? Do you see anything that would prevent you from making one turn as opposed to turning the other direction? So that's another thing to consider. Also, if you're going to run, what kind of footwear are you wearing? You're wearing flip-flops. It's Arizona, right? A lot of people wear flip-flops. How fast can you run wearing flip-flops? I'll guarantee you, if you go on a full-on sprint in a panic mode, those flip-flops are going to be gone in a second. Now you're left barefooted running across asphalt, things like that. Maybe you have to run across some gravel for a few hundred yards to get to safety. Those are things that you may not think of. You may think it's easy to slip them on, but what protection do they offer you? So just small things like that to consider. Also, if you're going to run, are you by yourself? Are you with somebody else? Are you with children? Are you with somebody that's older than you that maybe has some health issues that maybe can't run? And then also, what's your physical capabilities? Are you in good enough shape to run for a sustained distance to get to safety? So that brings a whole other element as far as preparation. One thing you can do is try to stay physically well, healthy, and also maintain some kind of workout program to where if something happens, you can prevail. Also, if you're going to run, what else do you have with you that you might be able to use as far as kind of an escape aid? And what I mean is, I brought a bag here. Obviously, this is something I have in my assigned vehicle. So if we respond to an active shooter, I just grab this bag, I grab my rifle, and I go. So this is going to vary a little bit. We'll dig into this in just a second. But what can you carry on you that's going to help you in those situations? So just start to think of that stuff. And then the last option, and of course we're going to dig into this one a lot more, is engage. If you hear those gunshots, you see people running, are you going to run towards it? You're going to see what it is, try to identify the threat. And then what can you do in that moment to stop that threat? Because you have to remember, that person, for whatever reason, and it really doesn't matter why they're doing it. A lot of times we want to know why. It doesn't matter. In that moment, they're trying to cause harm. They're trying to kill people. And a lot of times that's their goal. So, to me, the why really isn't important. It's they're doing something that we need to stop now. So, my train of thought is if I'm going to engage, I need to, one, have a knowledge of what's going on. And that can be as simple as seeing a person with a gun shooting other people. I'm pretty clear on that's the threat. And then two, what means do I have to stop it? If there's a person standing in the back of this room and they start shooting with an AK-47, what can I do? What do I have? Do I have a gun with me? Do I have something else? What means do I have to try to stop that threat? And then also, immediately, what actions can I take that will maybe disturb their train of thought? If they're actively engaging in shooting people, is there something I can do to distract them, to get them out of that thought process? Maybe buy a few seconds to where somebody else can help do something, or maybe I can approach and go hands-on, or if I have a weapon, I can engage. But there's a lot of variables to engaging. If I have a gun, what kind of gun is it? And that's where we'll dig into the age-old which caliber is better, whether it's a 45 or a 9 or a 40 or or a 50 cal or whatever you want to carry. Yeah, they all perform a little bit differently. If you're shooting a ballistic gelatin piece of block, yeah, you're going to see well, for those that aren't into weapons or how they test rounds, bullets, they shoot them into a gelatin block, and it shows how the bullet breaks up after impacting something, the consistency similar to that of a human body or tissue. And it shows the bullet how it spreads, and it's supposed to help them understand how the bullets work. I mean, you can go online to any gun forum, and you'll see arguments and people getting all in heated debates about what round is better. I'm going to avoid all that altogether. I think if you have a gun, it's good to know what round it is. It's good to know how it performs. But what I want to focus on is how often do you go shooting? How often do you test your proficiency? And not just shooting cans or just shooting paper, but shooting under stress. A good thing to do is shoot under time. You have a timer, stopwatch, something like that gets your heart rate elevated. Something that puts a little bit of pressure on and how well you shoot then, because there's a huge difference. And I'll tell you, I'm a firearms instructor for our department, and go out to the shooting range to help people learn how to shoot, officers learn how to shoot. And when you have a guy shooting at a target at 25 yards under no time constraint, generally the rounds can be decent into a human-sized target. As soon as you have a stopwatch and you hit go, or they hear an audible beep and they know they're supposed to shoot, the accuracy is diminished considerably. And that's something that each individual has to work on and get to the point where that stress doesn't affect you as much. So to put it in perspective, again, violent encounters are probably one of the most stressful events that you'll go through. A lot of things happen on this earth. We go through a lot of trials and tribulations, but I think that's probably one of the high stress situation you'll go through. Your body's going to react differently. You're not going to breathe normal. You're going to want more oxygen, and then we play back into the physical fitness side of it. How well can you recover and catch your breath? So I kind of breezed over a couple different topics. Hopefully got the minds open. People thinking, maybe you're thinking something that maybe you do that you can change. Maybe you're thinking something that, or I brought up a topic that you hadn't thought of. So at this point, we'll just kind of pause. Any questions? Go ahead. What is who going to do? No. As far as civil litigation and all that, each case is different. And I don't want to put a number and a dollar amount or anything like that. If somebody told you something, I don't know where they're getting their facts. That may be. There's a lot of variables that go into that. One being the victim or the victim's family, and then any innocent people that may or may not have been injured by your actions. That's a whole nother world. That's for lawyers. And while that is something to consider, in that moment that person's doing something, that's the threat. And so to me, the way I look at it in the most simplest terms is if they're doing something, obviously they're actively trying to kill people, and you shoot and kill them, to me that's justifiable homicide. Yeah, you might be investigated, but they're going to go through the checklist of the circumstances. And at the end of that investigation, their findings, if you kind of covered your bases, that's why these events, these active shooters, they're kind of complicated because they don't happen. If it's a one-on-one engagement, that puts that person who, let's call it what it is, are a coward. They're going to a place where they know people are gathered. They're going to bigger events, places where people feel in their comfort zone. and then they're opening up and doing their violence. So if you had a one-on-one engagement, if one of them was standing right here and it was just me and him, they probably won't act the same way they would as if they planned it in their environment. I don't have statistics. I don't have an interview with one that survived to back that up, but that's the way that I look at it. Those are considerations that you have to take, and in that sense, yes, because if you go and you try to shoot them, and you end up shooting an innocent bystander, then yeah, there's an issue. Granted, you had the best intention, but what was the outcome? So yeah, there'll probably be some ramifications. So, again, that's something that'll be investigated, that'll be argued in courts by lawyers. So how do we limit that liability is kind of what I want to get at is the things that you can do. You can go to the shooting range, make sure you're proficient, do that kind of training, and then also mentally prepare yourself for those situations, because you get put in that situation, and if you visualized it, if you thought of it mentally, when it happens, it seems familiar, and it may not be exact, but it's a feeling that you've been here before, and you have an idea of where to start to try to solve it. But yeah, it's definitely a consideration. People running around back and forth, you need to account for that. A few options to eliminate that is to close the distance. The closer you get to that person, the less room, the less space there is for the innocent people to get between you. And then also, they may see you running towards them, and we'll get into that in a second, but they may see you running towards them, not shooting at them, but with the intent to do something, and naturally they may part the Red Seas for you, so to speak. That kind of, we'll touch on some other things in just a second. Real quick, go ahead. That falls under the hide part of it, you know. One of the options you can do is to hide. And I'll actually, in the Virginia Tech shooting in 2007, I was at a conference where Christina Anderson, she's one of the survivors from that shooting, she gave it was an amazing, I don't call it a talk, but a presentation about her experience. And she actually did that. She was in a class in school. A guy came in and started shooting people. She was shot several times. And you say she was playing dead, and she kind of says it that way, but as well, at the same time, she was actively dying. She was in the process of bleeding out, but she didn't want to move, because if she moved, she feared that he would shoot her again. And so, I mean, it was now I'm getting a little emotional thinking about it. It was hard to sit through that. And to hear her perspective of it was really good for me to hear. So in fact, I'll write her name up on the board. That was one of the things I was going to talk about as far as one of the companies that will help train people. If you're interested in any information at all of this topic, active shooter, school shootings, or anything like that, whatever you want to call it, but what to do in these circumstances. She has a foundation. It's called the Koshka Foundation for Safe Schools. So the premise of it is kind of surviving these kind of violent attacks. Well, she founded it after surviving that attack. So I'll write her name up here so you guys can check it out. And in this conference she spoke at, there was about 3,000 SWAT officers from across the country up in Salt Lake last year. And she addressed it as far as, her perspective and what she saw. And then she addressed it as far as the first responders that came in, after some time after the shooter was eliminated as a threat. She talked about the first responders and how they were apologizing to her. It was just, it was amazing. It was like, it really, the way she explains it, and you could read her story. She has some interviews and stuff, but if you're interested, look it up. That's what I'd recommend. But to go back to your question, that was one of the things she did, and it may or may not have saved her life. There's no absolutes, no way for me to say it did or it didn't, but that's what she decided to do, and she's still alive today. So, question here. There's Well, investigations will always take place. Even officer-involved shootings. If a guy came in right now, he pulled a gun on me, and I turned and shot him, I'll still be investigated for homicide because that's the act. Hopefully, in that investigation, they'll find that it was justified. So, anytime you act, anytime you decide to do anything, and I don't want to discourage you from acting, but you bring up a good point. Anytime you act, we're still accountable for our actions. And I mean everybody. I don't mean just law enforcement, but everybody. It'll come to the point where either it's justified or it isn't, and it's something you need to prepare for. Like you said, I don't want to put a dollar amount on it, but if it's something that you want to start setting aside, as far as financially, to be able to assist you in case something like that happens. But there are no absolutes, and that's what I want to get at. Great question. I'm not sure on that. Is there? Okay. Do you have any of that information so I can put up here for everybody, or? So that's something to consider, if that's something that you're interested in. Try to get some more information on that. Go ahead. USCC, is it, there's their website, uscc.com or org. Okay, so yeah, something to check out. Okay. But I'll put it up here just so everybody has it. The biggest thing is if you decide to act, act decisively. And the way I was trained in my job is, the investigation will come afterwards. You'll have to justify what you did and why, and if you had any other options to do before you did the thing you did. And in the investigations that I've been a part of, they hammer you pretty hard, and they bring up things that you don't really think about. But in a violent encounter, if I'm thinking about, am I going to get sued for this later? By the time I'm done thinking that thought, I'll probably already get shot. And that's the world that's the world that we're in. And these events, an active shooter can happen so fast. I don't want you to think about what may happen and become more of a victim at that point. So it's good to prepare, it's good to know, it's good to maybe have this. But at the same time, if you're going to act, be decisive. Get the information that you need and build on it from there. Go ahead. It's and I'll tell you, was it 2 weeks ago? There was a Maryland deputy. He was a plainclothes detective. There was a shooting right outside the police station. He responded and he was helping, but because of his plain clothes, he was actually shot by another officer. So even at, we like to, law enforcement, we like to think that we're above it, and we're not. What it comes down to is personal experience and how you react in that stressful environment. That's the way that I look at it. When I was a brand new officer, I responded to a call to help. It was Phoenix PD. It was a domestic violence that was at a house. They got in a car. A guy drugged a woman into the car, and they got on the highway. We actually helped stop the vehicle. And all I remember was the license plate of the police car in front of me. My focus was here. My world shrunk so much. I had that tunnel vision. Whereas now, when I respond to a call like that, I'm able to see things. I'm able to process information faster. I'm able to look around and see who's with me, who's on my side. And whereas in that moment, I was so focused on something that didn't matter. The other officers around me were doing stuff, saying stuff, asking me questions, and I was just my own world. The more you're in different situations, or maybe high stress situations, the more you can learn to deal with that stress and kind of use it to your advantage. That said, I don't I don't suggest you actively look out or look for an active shooter. But again, that's that visual preparation or that visualization, mental preparation. Think about it. Think about something like that. If you're in a situation like that, what are you going to look for? And you bring up a great question. How can I tell if somebody else is running towards the threat with a gun? How can I know if they're part of the problem or the solution? Every situation is going to be different, and it's Arizona. Most people have guns. Most people carry. Our laws are really lenient when it comes to stuff like that. So you're probably going to have people pull out their guns and run towards the gunfire, which is good, I think, up until the point where one of them hasn't properly prepared, until they haven't done the work that's necessary to actually pull their gun out and engage that threat. You know, they like to carry a gun, but when it comes to using it, they're not proficient. They haven't thought it out. They haven't prepared in several different ways, including how they carry the gun. They may try to get the gun from their concealed area and end up shooting their leg because they haven't practiced that at their range, or they're not able to do that. So, tons of variables. One thing I would look for is if I'm responding to an active shooter, obviously the direction that you're moving. If we hear the gunfire that way and somebody next to me has a gun and they're running that way, I'm going to consider them a friend until I find or I see something else that tells me otherwise. It will be hard, and I guarantee you it'll be the hardest thing that you're involved in. But at the same time, it's something that you can do to stop that threat, to help save lives. If you're talking, you're actively exchanging rounds. To me, and I don't want to say that this is set in stone. To me, if I was on my days off at the mall, wherever, and I get into an active gun fight with an active shooter, I'm gonna go until that threat's no more. If I see officers responding, I'll throw out some terms. I'll yell some things that maybe other officers will understand that hey, I'm on your side. Hoping that they hear it. Hoping that they kind of see me as, hey, that's the threat. Let's go this way. And I hope that they've prepared. They've done the work. They've done what they need so that they can process that information and that they can help engage the threat. So I know that doesn't answer your question at all. But the way I see it is if I'm engaged with the threat, then I'm going to engage that threat until it is no more. At that moment, if the threat goes down, then I can lower my weapon. I'm going to scan around me, see what's going on, scan myself, make sure if I'm hurt, I need to get attention. But other than that, if you see officers coming and you're not actively shooting, that's a good time to find another position to. You want to hang around and support, but don't present yourself as a threat. And I know that's pretty broad, but pretty vague. Different officers can perceive different things as threats. But at the same time, the more out of the picture you are, the better, especially once law enforcement arrives. that was probably the worst answer that I could have given, but good. Any other questions? Go ahead. Absolutely, yeah, and maybe that was your question. If I'm holding a gun and he shows up, and he says, "Drop the gun," that gun's going to the ground. No, you're not going to say, "But I'm here to help." No, it's not going to be correct. Yeah, hang on, I'm busy. No, you're gonna, yeah, listen, absolutely. Yeah, hey, wait, come on, no, no. Yeah, it's no, it's one of those things where officer gives you commands, you listen, and if you have the gun and he says drop it, drop it. I don't like to drop guns. I'll set it down and it'll be obvious that I'm complying, but yeah, absolutely. Maybe that was the question. Go ahead. Here it is. Here it is. Go ahead. Yeah, absolutely. Sure. Yeah, it's a great question. Sure. Well, and that's a great point. No, no, because it reached a level that they didn't think it would reach. So, well, everybody's different. You've obviously thought about it. You've had some experience that would help you come up with your decision of what you would do, and your primary goal of protecting children. So, and you bring up a good point. If you don't have a gun, what do you have? You mentioned the baseball bat or the dictionaries or whatever else you had. You kind of have to do what you can with what you have. As far as your school, I mean, and John had mentioned this, wanted me to talk about it a little bit, was, you know, some schools may tell the children to gather, or the teacher to gather children in a corner and hide. Now some schools are telling them to find the closest exit and run. The thing about these active shooter events is they adapt. As soon as we come up with a policy or something that we think is going to help defend ourselves, they find a way around it, and they'll find a way to try to achieve their goal. And so we have to adapt. The more that we adapt, the more that they adapt. Pretty soon, it seems like we go in full circle. So eventually, we'll be talking about the same stuff that we were talking about a few years ago. But that's something that's necessary. We have to consider everything constantly, and it's a constant assessment. It's something that maybe your school teaches you guys to hide in the corner. If you need to hide in the corner, hide in the corner. But what else can you do? Barricade the door, or find something that you can kind of conceal more. Things of that nature. Always try to build on whatever your primary response is, whether it's hide, run, or engage. So it's kind of there's no hard and fast. There's no hard and fast rule. This is what you do. This is what you do. Probably the constant thing. Because I hand over here. Go ahead. Well, yeah, those are definitely options. Those are definitely options. You know, those are things that if as long as it's within the laws of the land, if those are something that somebody can carry, if they want to, sure. There's positives and negatives to every option you choose, though. I'll tell you the negative to carrying an OC spray is if you deploy it and you spray it at somebody, you're going to get exposed to it. And I hate OC spray more than anything else. I'd rather get tased 10 times in a row than get OC sprayed. And unfortunately, I get OC sprayed all the time. So it's just nasty stuff. To me, it reacts my skin. It's bad. So that's the downside of it. Is if you're going to deploy it, you're probably going to be exposed. So if you've never been exposed to it, the first time you're exposed to it, it's a real eye opener, or closer, because one of the effects is to kind of didn't mean for that, but so yeah, that, and then also with a baton or any other impact weapon, anything that you're going to carry. If you're going to use it, one, you need to be proficient, know how to use it, know your strike areas, your effective distances. There's a lot of variables that go into that tool being effective. The biggest concern that I have with that type of thing is it getting taken away and being used on you. Same with the gun, same with any other weapon. But it's something you need to consider. If you're going to carry it, got to consider the positives with the negatives. There's no perfect solution. So, you had another question? Never experienced it. Well, yeah, to bring it back to an active shooter situation, that's what that person is trying to do. So if you have the means, if you have the opportunity, and you have the tool that you're talking about, yeah, absolutely. I mean, go to town. The harder you swing, the better, as long as it's accurate, as long as it's hitting the proper strike point. And in that case, you're trying to stop that threat and just keep going until it stops. So, again, those are good things to consider. You just have to know and be familiar with things that you're going to carry to use as defense. Make sure they don't be used against you. absolutely. I mean, it's going to be a horrible experience. There's probably not a single part of that period of time that you're going to look fondly on later on. As far as the physical things we go through, one, you're trying to get away, and maybe you're exerting yourself or overexerting yourself than what you're used to, especially if you're trying to help other people, whether it's children or just somebody else that you're with. Maybe you have to jump a fence or something like that. After jumping that fence, you may feel exhausted, or you may have that adrenaline might be pumping through you, and you're good to go. There's no hard and fast. There's no absolute. So on that one, you had mentioned first they told you to get down, and then they came back and they said run. As far as my experience with similar situations, initially, as far as law enforcement goes, I want to control everybody that's there. And to me, it's not a power thing. It's a safety thing. If I tell you to do something and you do it, at least for that second, you're not a threat to me. Until you do something else that helps, that makes me reconsider. So if they tell you to get down, law enforcement responds. They tell you to get down, and you get down, and then they come back and tell you to run. You did the right thing. They were able to go to a position where they kind of assessed the situation, which was probably changing. They were getting updated information of maybe a location, or maybe whatever. They got more information, and then they decided to tell you to run. It's at that point that's where you can start to assess things. Maybe the whole time you're assessing things yourself, but once you start running, that's where you can develop. Well, where am I going to go? Where can I go? Where's a place that offers safety? How far can I go? If you had children with you, especially a lot of children, you're limited in some of those answers. If you're familiar with the area, like in your neighborhood, develop a plan today. If I had to run from my house, where am I going to go? Am I going to a neighbor's house? Or am I just going to run down the middle of the street? Am I going to stay along the sidewalk? Am I going to run through yards because it offers some concealment? Once I get out of the immediate threat area, now what do I do? Am I going to stand there and wait to be contacted by law enforcement or somebody else? Or am I going to keep going? Or am I going to find some cover? When you left your house, when you ran from your house, you had your phone with you. Probably not. You might have had it on your dresser or on the couch, or it was away from your body when you had to run. Now what? Do you know somebody's phone number you can call? Because I'm horrible with trying to remember phone numbers. It's maybe it's a generational thing, but I never really had to. They're always on the cell phone, right? So memorize some phone numbers. Somebody you can call that you can help. Obviously 911 is going to be your first call, but after that, who can come and help you? Go ahead, John. True. And vital in everything, in everything you do. Walking down the halls, knowing where you're at, of any building, anywhere. Driving a car, situational awareness is the difference between getting in a wreck and not getting in a wreck. Knowing the vehicles that are around you, knowing the drivers that are around you, their driving behaviors, what they're doing, the flow of traffic, also knowing the area you're driving in. So I talk about traffic a lot, obviously, being a highway patrolman, or a state trooper now that I guess we're calling ourselves. Traffic it relates very much to the way people are. When you show me the way that somebody drives, and I can tell you certain characteristics about their life, it's just something I've developed. There's certain things that you can pick apart and see. So on that note, if you're going to a restaurant, you walk into a restaurant, who's at the restaurant? Where are they sitting? Where are you going to sit? Is your back to the door? Is your back to the wall? Do you have a good visual of the doors, the entrances, the exits? If you had to run within that restaurant, who's going to get in your way? Or who are you going to help? Or if you had to engage a threat, what's your backdrop? Or who's between you and where that threat may be? Where's the kitchen at? Because you know you're going to have, one, a place to hide, and then also a place to get some weapons if you need to defend yourself. There's so many things to consider, and you could break it down to everything. I mean, the situational awareness to the way people are looking at you. If some guy keeps eyeballing you, obviously that has your attention. And then you kind of start to you want to avoid the judgment of people, but at the same time you can't. And the way that the world is becoming and has gotten, you can't help but be suspicious of certain activities or certain things that you see. It's human nature, and in some cases, it's just, I mean, it is what it is. Without going much further into that, your comfort level is your comfort level. What are you comfortable with? Other than that, I mean, knowing what's going on around you and controlling what you can control, that's as far as, I mean, that's as much as you can do, right? So, anything else you wanted me to touch on with that, John, or is there? Go ahead. Generally, that's the case, and I will bring up, if I can find it. I had it prepared. A statistic. This was collected by the FBI, who keeps track of all these things. 98% of active shooters, the shooter did not survive. So that right there gives us there's a lot of information that maybe we could have or maybe we don't get after the fact. As far as the mindset, and of course, now that I'm trying to find it, I can't. As far as the mindset of what their purpose is, it can vary. Every situation is different. It could be something that they feel a victim of being bullied, and they want to lash out at those that were bullying them. It could be something that, they were angry and disgruntled at their former workplace, so they decided to go there and do stuff. The motives, I mean, they can be infinite. Every situation could be a little bit different. The one thing, personally, that I see that they all have related is maybe they don't feel comfortable reaching out to somebody, maybe talking a little bit. Or if they did, they probably made some statements to people where the people may have ignored some of those statements that kind of were clues or indications that they may be headed down that path. Generally, and of course after the fact, it seems obvious, but nobody wants to believe that leading up to that event. They may have made a statement or posted something on social media that maybe would give people an idea that something's going to happen. Well, after it happens, it's easier to say. Obviously, hindsight's 20/20. But yeah, as far as the similarities between them all, they're all kind of tied together in one way or another. But generally, it's something that's, again, to me, the why isn't. It's important, but if I'm in that situation, it really isn't, and that's kind of my focus. Yeah, we can sit down afterwards and kind of determine what we can maybe do differently. But generally, if they're going to do it, they're going to do it. And they've kind of made up their minds, especially the ones that are well planned out. The ones that they take a lot of time and effort into doing. The ones that aren't so just kind of flying off the handle type of thing. There's a lot of different. This week there was one that was discussed in the news this week. How many other ones happen around the world in different countries that we don't even know about? I want to, let's open our minds. Let's not lie to ourselves. There's things happening daily in different parts of the world. Whether or not we're aware of it, but these events are happening constantly, and it's something that, I mean, it's kind of part of our world now. What was it, 1999 or 2000 when Columbine happened? That was a huge event because it was something that was different. Nowadays, they kind of pick and choose which ones to report on, and unfortunately, it's gotten to that. Sure. Yeah, it's gotten to that. So sure. But yeah, and then that opens up that whole Pandora's box of, well, what do you do? What can you say? Is it something you feel comfortable putting yourself out there to bring something up? And that's something you consider. I mean, absolutely. If certain indications are there, they start making statements that really don't sit well with you, absolutely bring it up. I mean, report it to who you need to report it to. But yeah, those events are happening constantly. And we call things, certain events, active shooters. We can look up certain definitions. Different organizations define it differently. To me, in the moment, if somebody is shooting a gun at somebody else, I'm not going to stand around and kind of determine if they were the only target or not. I'm going to do something until it maybe falls into place, and I can kind of assess it a little bit differently. If it is a targeted attack, do you call it an active shooter? That's just semantics at that point. Is somebody else killing another person? Maybe it's not right. I saw a hand. Where? Without getting into too much of the politics as far as jurisdictions and stuff. Once on the SWAT side of things, once we're called and we arrive on scene, then we assume that authority is that. We take over the tactical command. We start developing our plan, coming up with making decisions, and moving things into place the way that we see fit. We report to our chain of command. It's just like everything else. There's an order to it. Certain decisions have to go through that chain of command, but it's a little more lenient as far as our side goes. If we need to make a decision that we need to do now, we don't have to wait for certain approvals to happen. We act as it needs to happen, and then that's kind of the order of it. Well, yeah, I mean, every law enforcement officer went to the academy. They were trained in certain things. To me, the only difference between me being on SWAT and a first-year officer on the road is experience and the training I've received. That's it. I don't. My classification, when you look it up in our department, is trooper. There's guys that have been on the road for less than a year. Their classification is trooper. They get paid the same. Well, a little bit different on our pay scale. But to me, we're both there. We both signed up for this. We both have a job to do. I don't think of myself as above him because I'm on SWAT. I've been given more opportunities. I've had experiences, and I've been given training to do what I want to do as far as being on SWAT. But the title doesn't mean much to me. Go ahead. Bam. Thank you. Because I really neglected this little go bag here. So like I said, I have this in my patrol vehicle. This is on the front seat. If we get a call for an active shooter, obviously I just grab it, I throw this over my shoulder, and we go. If I have time, I can grab my vest as I'm driving in, and I have my rifle available as well. But in this bag, I have a bunch of AR-15 magazines, and they're loaded with our duty ammo for our department. That way I'm covered on that side of it. And those are just tucked away in these little compartments. There's some other stuff I have in here, just in other pockets. But to get to your question, I have two bags in here. There's this one, and then there's this smaller one. As you see, this doesn't take up much space at all, just so everybody can see it. It's a small little pouch. I could fit this in a pocket, put this in a purse. It's very small. What's inside of it is the essential stuff that if you do get shot or if you sustain some other injury where you're bleeding, there's essential stuff to where you can help yourself or help others with that. The basic one, this is a tourniquet. It's in a bag, which I need to take it out of the bag, but it's called a SWAT tee, and this so happens to be SWAT. but it's just it's kind of an elastic, rubbery. If I were to pull it out, it's kind of, I think it's like 6 feet long. It's a tourniquet. If I needed to use it on an arm or a leg, someplace where you're bleeding, you just wrap it around, tighten it up as tight as you can. That'll help slow that bleeding down. And then there's some these combat gauze. And then there's a lot of other stuff you can get. There's bandages. There's the quick clot. There's which coagulates the blood quickly. If you can get it down to the source of the bleeding within a certain amount of time, it'll extend your life or the life of somebody else if you're bleeding quite a bit. There's another tourniquet that I have in here, and this is the cat T. I don't know if you've heard of it. This one, you just open it up, put it over the limb, just cinch it down. It's all Velcro, so you throw it on. You just pull I don't really want to tighten it too much, but if I was bleeding in my arm, get it as high as I can onto that arm, tighten this up. It Velcros to itself, and then there's this part that I turn. I just keep cranking on that until basically my arm goes numb. It's going to hurt. It's not going to feel good, but it'll stop that bleeding. It'll reduce, especially if you're bleeding out, especially arteries, the legs, things like that. This is something that you can put on yourself as long as, if you're not injured to a certain degree, something you can put on somebody else. But this can be the difference in life and death. I don't know how many veterans we have in here. If you look at some of the statistics, which I could have brought in the mid 2000s, the killed in action report as far as those that bled out was really high. Now they're finding the use of tourniquets reduces those casualties quite a bit, and even reduces the loss of limb. Whereas maybe 10 or 15 years ago, it was thought if you put a tourniquet on an arm, you're going to lose the arm. That was kind of the general rule. Not anymore. You throw that tourniquet on, more than likely you can keep that limb. Yeah, that's a good amount of time. And I should have brought in these statistics. But yeah, whereas before if you put it on, it was thought automatically you'd have to amputate. You have quite a bit of time. So, and especially if we're here in the rural Phoenix area, if you're in a situation where you get shot or something where you're bleeding out, you throw a tourniquet on, medical assistance is going to be fairly close, assuming that the threat gets taken care of. So, but like I said, this is something quick and easy. A few things you can throw in there: some gauze, some bandages. I got a pair of gloves. There's a mask for airway, breathing, stuff like that. There's another one, and these are just, you can Google it. There's companies that make tons of options as far as this goes. It's just the individual first aid kit, or IFAC is the acronym they use, but an individual first aid kit. This one's a little more extensive. This is actually one of the military ones that they give out now. It has the same Cat T tourniquet. This one unfolds. It has a few more options in here. Still has the combat gauze, the quick clot, some gloves, some tape. Tape always comes in handy. Compressed gauze, stuff like that. So again, if you're going to carry something like this, know what you have in it. Make sure it stays current. This stuff can expire, but then also know how you use it, under what circumstance you need to use it. Just some general stuff. So if you do happen to get injured, or if you come across somebody who needs that life-saving medical, there's just something simple that you can carry. So I hope that answers your question. I don't know. This is stuff that I have for on duty. But this little pack, very small, you can take it. Some of the other things, go ahead. They are both hollow points. There's actually our duty round is actually a soft point. Let me back up. With our handgun, we're issued a 40 caliber. That's what our department uses. For our duty round, it is a hollow point. The ballistic test that our department went through, that's what they chose to go with. So it performs well on what it needs to perform on. As far as options and stuff that's out there, research it for yourself if you're going to carry something. Know the difference, and thank you for bringing that up. Know the difference between what a hollow point does and what full metal jacket rounds do. And if you're going to carry a gun, which round you're going to carry in case you need to engage. So, something to consider. For AR-15, these are soft point, 64 grain, spear, gold dot. And that's, again, this is stuff that's kind of mandated by our department. These are our duty rounds. If I'm going to engage in something on duty, then this is what I have to use. So, but it is a good round as far as stopping a threat if somebody's actively shooting, or if I need to stop it. That's the round that's approved effective. Yeah. As far as it relates to active shooter, just be aware of your surroundings, and this goes for everybody, but especially at school. One day you may hear something, or you see something from somebody, one of your friends, or maybe just a classmate. Maybe you've noticed they're not acting the same as they used to. Maybe they've gone through some event. Maybe they've had some experience where it changed their outlook on life. Just be aware of your surroundings. You're walking through the hall at school. Notice the people around you. Look for little indications that something's not right. It doesn't mean something bad is going to happen, but at least you're aware of it. So if it does, you already kind of be ahead of that curve. You already have maybe made a decision of what you'll do. Be aware of your school. I mean, obviously you go to school every day. You know where things are, but in the halls, if you had to hide real quick, where's a good place to hide? What class is a good classroom to hide in? Or if you need to run outside, where are you gonna run to? I know, like fire drills, stuff like that. They kind of give you predetermined locations to go. Not a bad idea. I don't know if they do that for active shooter response or not. Some schools I think do, but mentally do that. Maybe you and a few friends come up with a plan. Hey, if something happens, let's meet up at this place. It's always better to be in one of these situations with your friends than it is to be alone. So, but yeah, the biggest thing is know your surroundings, know what's going on around you. Don't just put headphones in and tune the world out. So that's the easiest way to become a victim. You don't hear things, you don't see things. Your mind's not thinking. It's not processing things the same way it is as if you're kind of unplugged. Good on that? Okay, go ahead. It's half. Absolutely. Sure. Yeah, absolutely. And you touched on the key is, the advancements of in the medical field are, every day they're coming up with solutions to issues. There was a trooper who was shot, I think 2 years ago, directly in the face. He went just to the side of his nose. He ended up hitting his upper cheek and ricocheting out and just kind of being diverted off the back. He survived it. Initially, talking to the other troopers that were with him, they were like, "Oh, we thought he was dead." He wasn't responding, choking on his blood type of stuff. They were able to do some initial things that helped prevent him from, one, choking on his blood, and then once the medical personnel showed up, they were able to act quickly. So absolutely, the survivability of a gunshot is way higher than what Hollywood wants us to believe. And also the accuracy of guns and the way people shoot is not nearly as high as what they want to portray. You can't just pull out a gun, fire around, and 50 yards away you're going to hit your target. It's not that easy. So, but absolutely, mentally prepare yourself. If I get shot, I'm not dying. I'm not going to die from it. It's not something that you're just going to sit there and say, "Well, I'm shot, I'm done." You do what you can. If you don't have a tourniquet, you have shoelaces. You have a shirt. You have a sock. You have something that you can do something. Always be thinking, I'm not even going to survive this. I'm going to thrive through this. So it's kind of more of a mental thing to say. Sure. As far as the law enforcement portion of it, in general, you're right. You'll hear that as far as police shootings a lot. As people are like, well, why don't you shoot him in the leg? Or if he had a knife, why don't you just shoot the knife out of his hand? If I could, I would. That would be pretty cool. It's not realistic at all. Especially, again, going back to the high-stress situation. Somebody's coming at you with a gun or a knife. You want to stop that threat. Obviously, the vital organs are in the upper torso, neck, throat, and head. This is the target area that you stop these vital organs. That's the greatest probability you have of stopping that person. And that's the argument. Are you shooting to stop it? Yeah, that's something you want to stop it. Generally, if you're doing it properly, the person will probably die. And that's just the reality of it. That said, I know on our part of it, when we get in shooting, once that threat stops, we go to work on the first aid side of it to save that person. It's completely opposite of what may feel natural. But it's something to consider. Yeah, center mass, headshot, stuff like that. Again, it's not an absolute. There are no absolutes. You're talking bullet ballistics. You're talking the human body. There's no hard and fast rule to that. But target area. That's what we train to shoot is the upper torso or the head if it's at closer distances. If this isn't effective, look for the secondary target areas. Go ahead. That well, you know how fast you can run. You kind of know your capabilities, or at least you should. If you approach from behind, obviously you have the advantage of hopefully they don't see you or they don't hear you. If you can sneak up on them, obviously that's going to be the best because you take them by surprise. So not only physically you're going to do something, psychologically it's going to throw them off. It's going to get in their thought process and hopefully change their behavior. That said, how often do you train with martial arts or some kind of hand-to-hand things to consider? You know what I mean? I wrestled all throughout high school. I feel comfortable grabbing somebody and going to the ground with them. Not to say I'm a super cool, awesome wrestler, but I feel comfortable with that. If I get defeated, I get defeated. But I know that I can grab somebody, go to the ground, and do something. Absolutely. They train. They have experience. They go out and actively seek that, and that's the difference. If you want to become that, or if you want to have those capabilities, then that's the path. And maybe that's a good end point. Maybe tie everything together. You'll only be as successful as you train to be. If you walk away from the night and you never think about an active shooter or a violent encounter, then this is as far as your experience will go. If you actively search out the things that you need, come up with a physical fitness plan, or kind of stay in shape. If you want to go to the shooting range, you want to carry a gun, be proficient at that, know the laws, know the rules, know what you need to do to protect yourself. But actively do something. As long as you're moving forward, you're going in the right direction. So there's a lot of different options, a lot of websites, a lot of companies that offer good stuff. Just make sure you vet it. Make sure you're looking into it. Whatever gun you feel comfortable, one, carrying with you, whether it's in a purse or hidden on your body, and then two, whatever gun you feel comfortable shooting. And by comfortable shooting, I mean shooting a gun, it's small explosions going off. It's not going to be comfortable, but whatever gun you can hold in your hands and shoot and be accurate with, and that you feel comfortable shooting. There's no hard and fast. I'm not going to sit here and say you need a 1911 with everything on. It's whatever you prefer. So. absolutely. Yeah, because it's aerial, you know. And if there's a fan blowing the air around, it's going to circulate. So if I had an OC canister or any kind of chemical munition, if I sprayed it over there, eventually those, the powder or the liquid, whatever it is, it's going to kind of make its way to me. I may not get the full effect of it, but I am going to feel some effect of it. So that's things to consider. You know, in law enforcement, we carry it. I never once pull my OC can out to spray anybody because I know how it felt. Not because I didn't want them to feel it, because I didn't want to feel it again myself. So, all right, real quick. If we had to exit the valley, like a mass exodus of everybody in Phoenix, that is a great question. It's going to be chaos, no matter what. No matter what policies, no matter things. There are certain things that we prepare for as far as, kind of maintaining and kind of directing people of where to go. There's stuff that we do to kind of limit the chaos. But I mean, you have if the whole valley we're trying to leave, it's going to be something like that. Yeah. And there's federal, and then also state and local. There's plans in place for those type of events. So yeah, to answer your question, the short answer is yes. The long answer is it's going to be chaos either way. It goes back to the same thing we've been talking about. What are you comfortable in doing? That's an answer. What's that? That's one of those that we can have a whole nother argument on that, or a whole discussion. So there's certain events that have happened in the past that kind of set a precedent. But every situation is different, and like we talked about before, the investigation, they'll go through and they'll determine whether you did is justified or not. Could be. There's certain, yeah, absolutely. Well, and that's the thing, is to prepare for, as far as, and to think about those things, seek it out. I mean, obviously we talked about these other things that are there to kind of help protect you in those kind of circumstances. But if you're in your house, somebody comes in and you fear for your life, if you can justify that you were in fear for your life, and you do, and whatever you choose to do, you can justify why you did it, that's all you can do. You know what I mean? That's cool. Appreciate your attention and your questions and everything. I'll put my email up here if you guys have any questions or anything. You guys can hit me up on the email, but I appreciate it.